how competitive is this group right now?
It's obviously not a great group. It's obviously not a great defensive line in terms of rushing the quarterback. So, I guess we're going to find out going forward.
I thought we would be tossing the name of the new Niner at Greg Cosell and asking him, how does he fit in there on that defensive line?
Break it down.
But, hey, Greg, they didn't do anything. So how do you view this current defensive line that they have? They think they'll add Bryce Huff back to it. But how competitive is this group right now?
Well, they obviously also lost Mikel Williams, so it's obviously not a great group. I don't get into whether trades should or shouldn't be made because I have no idea what those conversations are like. So that's speculation. That's fans get into, well, they should have done this, they should have done that. That's not what I do, as you guys know. I don't really think like that. But it's obviously not a great defensive line in terms of rushing the quarterback. So, I guess we're going to find out going forward if they can create some pressure. This game against the Giants was not a great barometer of that because they played a young quarterback who's very unfocused and basically is at the stage in his career where he sees everything and sees nothing. So this was not a good test. They'll get a much better test this week. And obviously, even though they beat them the last time they played week 5, we know that Matthew Stafford threw for 389 yards and really did not struggle throwing the football against that 49er defense. Bosa did not play in that game, but certainly Mikel Williams did.
When you look at the Giants game, is this just a classic case of the bend but don't break defensive philosophy working for the 49ers? Didn't seem to me like they brought a ton of pressure on Jackson Dart.
No, and I think ultimately, you're dealing with they relied almost exclusively on a 4-man pass rush. As I said, they weren't playing a very refined quarterback. They only rushed 5 on 5 of Dart 39 dropbacks. So this was a game where they relied almost exclusively on their 4-man D-line pass rush and their coverage. And that could work against Dart and not big-time outside receivers. So, that was a game that it worked. And the Giants gained less than 300 yards of total offense, and 134 of those came in the fourth quarter when the competitive phase of the game was essentially over. So that, like I said, that's not a great test. They'll get a much, much better test this week, and we'll see how Robert Saleh chooses to play it. Matthew Stafford is playing at a very high level. He's a great player to begin with. And you guys know, it's the same division. You guys know with Stafford that if he's comfortable and clean in the pocket, he's a very difficult guy to play against.
No doubt about it. Yeah, we'll get to all kinds of stuff with the Rams as we unfold here. You caught my ear with a word that you used to describe Jackson Dart. I think I'd love to hear more about it. You called him unfocused.
At this point in his career, that's all we have at this point is what he's done. I can't speak to what he will or won't become down the road. But at this point, he's playing with unfocused eyes. It results in too much head and body movement in the pocket. The picture overall is still a little too muddy for him. So, at this point in his career, and I learned this phrase from working with Ron Jaworski for years and years and years, so I'm not going to take credit for it. Jaws would say that because he went through it, all young quarterbacks go through it at some point where you drop back and you see everything, but you really see nothing because you can't narrow down your focus to what you need to be looking at.
And when you look at the game on the other side of the ball against the Giants, was that just a classic case of complementary football? The Niners were able to run it early, and they withstood the opening drive from the Giants, and then they kind of got things in their favor. Is that the blueprint for how the 49ers would need to approach the Ram game with time of possession in the ground game?
They certainly want to play like that. They've always been a team that the foundation is the run game, and obviously with the back that can't play anymore, who had a pretty good game. So, I think that's the way they want to play, and that's and then the quarterback, and even whether it's Purdy or Jones, the quarterback is. And this is a word where people think that, the quarterback's secondary, but the quarterback is a complementary piece in a fully dimensional offense. That's really what they want to be. By choice, they never want their quarterback to drop back 35, 38 times in a game. If a game plays out that way, and it has to happen, we've seen that a couple of times over the years with Purdy, then they'll have to play that way. But that's not the way they want to play.
I think when you look at the quarterback play for the 49ers, you could really see some game planning from Kyle. Everybody knows that the Giants, the only thing that defensively they're going to throw at the opposition right now is this great pass rush. What did you see from game planning and execution from Mac Jones in terms of how the 49ers kind of kept that pass rush at bay?
Well, I think just by the way they normally play, they tend to do that. Keep in mind, I did a little bit of a study of their first quarter offense this year, and through 9 games this year, they've run 119 plays in the first quarter. More than 50% of those plays have come out of 21 personnel with Juszczyk on the field. So they want to play out of 21 personnel. They've added this little wrinkle. I don't know what they call it, this little motion with Juszczyk where he sort of starts kind of in a wing position, starts as if he angles back in the backfield, and then they have multiple run game concepts off of that. But that's the way they ultimately want to play. And the Giants, of course, were playing with Deonte Banks at one corner and a street free agent Black at the other corner, and they went after him a bit when they did throw it. That's how they got the Jennings touchdown. They went after Black. This game played out exactly the way they wanted it to play out from an offensive standpoint. The question is, can they do that against the Rams?
I'm glad you pointed out that motion, Greg, because to me it feels almost like a cheat motion where he starts a step off the line of scrimmage and then he shuffles back and then he shuffles across, and it feels like before the snap he's moving forward. You're seeing this more and more from other teams around the league. Is this something that you might think the league will address? Because it seems to me more and more the teams are starting to kind of cheat on this use of motion.
Well, I mean, it's legal. He's in a wing alignment. He angles motion into the backfield, then return motion, as we call it. And as I said, they run multiple run game concepts from it, asking Juszczyk to make different kinds of blocking techniques and concepts. And obviously, we know Juszczyk's a very, very good blocker. It helps to create better angles for both Juszczyk and other second-level blocks. So, it's kind of, I don't remember seeing this in previous years. So, I think this is something they've added, and it's been effective. So, I'm sure they'll continue to do it, because what it does is, as a defense, you don't know what the running play will be, because Juszczyk is being asked to execute multiple blocking concepts from that motion/return motion concept. So it probably creates a little momentary sense of hesitation and tentativeness for particularly second-level players on the defense.
Here's something I want to throw out because the audience will love this. Greg, for years under Kyle Shanahan, it has felt like special teams has been a complete and total adventure. I'm looking right now at some advanced numbers. The special teams EPA for the Niners starting week 2, forget week 1, but this is once Eddie Pinheiro joined the team. Since that moment, the 49ers have the second highest special teams EPA in the entire NFL. What do you see other than just Pinheiro's accuracy?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I work a lot of hours, probably 70 hours, 75 hours a week. I do not watch special teams. It doesn't fit into my life. Pinheiro, has he missed a field goal?
No, he missed an extra point. His very first Niners kick, he missed an extra point, and he's been perfect since.
So I can't speak to, I just don't have time in my life to watch their special teams. So I don't know. First of all, I don't even know what EPA means.
Expected points added, based on every play.
Points added, yeah. Wait a minute.
I don't know what that means.
Greg,
what does that even mean, by the way?
Well, it means expected points added. It means basically.
But you have to explain that to me. What do you mean expected points?
You're basically comparing a 2nd and 7 to another 2nd and 7. So if you gain 2 yards on a 2nd and 7, and another team gains 2 yards on a 2nd and 7, they base it on where you were on the field, the defense against whom you did that. So not every 2-yard gain on 2nd and 7 is created equally.
Okay, so what does that tell me about the 3rd and 5 play that's coming up?
Well, it tells me that if they gain 6 yards, you get a first down.
Well, no, you have to answer first. Is Josh Allen on your team, Lamar Jackson, or no? And
yeah,
then,
I don't
go
know
from there.
There's so many of these numbers now, I guess the metrics of the sport, and I'm not saying they don't mean anything, but, sometimes I think we overdo all that stuff. I don't, and I wasn't trying to be sarcastic. I don't know what that means as far as watching tape when I'm watching a game on tape. What EPA means relative to me watching the tape. I don't know what it means, and I'm being honest.